Welcome to How Do They Afford That, the podcast that peeks into the financial lives of everyday Australians. I'm Michael Thompson. I'm a writer and co-host of the podcast Fear and Greed Business News. And as always, I'm with Canna Campbell, financial planner, founder of Sugar Mama TV, the financial literacy platform on YouTube and podcasts and books and Instagram and Threads and TikTok, and keynote speeches and a whole bunch of other things. Hello, Canna.
Hello, how are you?
I'm going well, thank you, but I'm keeping things very brief. The intro is very, very short today because once again, we have a special guest in the studio. We are joined by your partner, Tom. Hello, Tom.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm going well, thank you. I'm very excited about today because it is part 2 of our episode where we are talking about money in the relationship. And Canna, last week we went through a whole lot of listener questions that came in via Instagram, all about how the two of you manage money in your relationship, and not just manage money, but how you communicate about money and some of the problems that you've had in doing so and how you've sorted those out. Really kind of a bit of couples financial counselling with the least qualified person in the world to be doing it. Let's pick up with where we kind of left off last week. Tom, is there anything that you have spent money on in the past that has really annoyed Canna?
Ooh.
There may not be a single item that has done it, or maybe it is just, actually, it's probably almost kind of the other way, that you refuse to spend enough money on the muesli and other things.
Yeah, those little things. I don't really know if there's an answer to that because, as I alluded to before, that we're both pretty chilled out. Can you think of one? Oh, you could think of 100 for sure.
Go on, Canna. Maybe I should have actually put this to you.
Yeah,
Canna,
it might be better for Canna.
What has Tom spent money on in the past that has really annoyed you?
He likes to shop on certain websites.
Oh, this is true. This is true.
For example, 30 pairs of socks that are
Temu.
really
See?
bad quality socks that last
I'm authentic.
about a week. And it just really irritates me. I'm like, buy quality, not quantity.
No, the shopping online thing is one because I also buy shoes that don't fit, or I'll buy jumpers that are just so good on these models that when I get them, they're just not the same. But
you will buy.
I'll buy 5 of the same one.
You buy 5 of the same one, but then rips all the tags off, puts them on, and goes, "Oh, they don't fit." And then they never get worn.
That's
I can't
true.
return them back because he's ripped the tags off.
That must drive you nuts. I don't mean to kind of stoke the fires of division between the two of you, but that must drive you completely crazy, Canna, because you talk all the time about sustainable fashion and all of that.
No, that is true. That is one.
What about then, Tom, and this was another one from a listener, if you weren't with Canna, would you be spending and saving differently? Would you have kind of continued on kind of your old ways? It did sound like when you were describing it before that it wasn't as though you've ever been a hugely kind of reckless person in terms of money.
I've always been interested in property. And I've always been very interested in shares, but didn't understand. I still remember being 22 years old, going down to the bank, Commonwealth, getting my dividend of $18.34, and even those sort of things like reinvest dividends, long-term growth and all of that, I didn't understand that, but I understood property. So I was always very keen to buy property early doors and build towards that, and I was very conscious of that. The biggest change would have been I would have a incredible share portfolio if I'd met Canna 20 years before I did.
Yeah.
Because I was on that path, and we've had a couple of opportunities where it's just jump to it, the GFC and more recently, obviously, Corona, but we just bought a property, so we couldn't do that. But there's been opportunities where in the right hands, and I was like, this is it, this is where we go, press go, and everyone, no, don't, the world's ending, whereas Canna would have been press go. Those sort of things would have been a big difference. Whether or not, with the tools that are available for education now, I think I would have got there eventually, but probably not with as much confidence or when you're doing it with someone you really trust and love.
Canna, this is probably one for both of you, really. But you kind of strike me as someone who's always been kind of very goal-focused and long-term kind of goals and really working towards that financial independence kind of goal. But have you adjusted your goals at all because of Tom? And Tom, have your kind of goals changed because of Canna?
I wouldn't say I've adjusted my goals, but I have definitely learned to enjoy a healthier balance. I think, especially, when I met Tom, I was a single mum, so I was on a very tight budget, a single income. So I had to be a lot more frugal. And then I think there was an element of, and this is not to cry poor me, but there was almost an element of self-worth, like an issue of self-worth. So I struggled to spend money on myself and enjoy it guilt-free. And Tom has, I guess, created a safe space for me to be okay with having a healthier balance in life, And that doesn't mean I go out and spend a whole pile of money on clothes and shoes and handbags, but, I now, do allow myself to enjoy like a monthly massage guilt-free, because that's time for me to relax and that's time for me to switch off and maybe have a nap or maybe brainstorm some ideas for work. So I definitely think he's taught me to be a lot more relaxed and easygoing with money.
And Tom, you agree? Has Canna kind of made it easier to look long-term with
definitely.
money?
Yep, absolutely. I was a bit more short-term focused, and even to the point where the mortgage 30 years kill me. Like, I don't, but Canna's like, no, if you pay off this amount now and the saving that it is and all of that sort of stuff, the power of long-term investing, absolutely. Yep.
Now, this is a much lighter question, and it is probably one just for Tom. And this has come from a listener. What is your dream frivolous purchase? If Canna wasn't looking and you had access to every account known to man, what would you go and spend the money on?
That's a good question. Does it have to be a thing, or
No.
can it be?
No, it could be an experience. It could be anything.
That's a good question. I would travel the world playing golf. That's what I'd do. I just put all the money to that.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Canna, what about you?
I would stay at home and just adopt 5,000 Labradors.
Oh dear Lord, this is it's interesting, isn't it? That these are your kind of. Have you discussed kind of frivolous purchases? Like, do you have a separate account? Of course, you don't have a separate account for it, but like for these kind of
Not
things,
that Canna knows.
No. Oh, hello. But kind of. Is that part of your long-term goals that one day that there will be kind of a world golf tour kind of thing?
Oh, bloody oath it is.
Yes.
It's happening.
Yeah.
I know, of course, like, being able to retire and retire not at 65, 70, like retire earlier in life and be able to travel, as a couple around the world, but also be able to take our kids with us around the world and to be able to give money to charity and to be able to, help our children out, to a certain degree, if and when appropriate. So, I'm not going to be Tom's caddy, that's for sure. I will go and explore the art galleries and.
But actually, the other thing that I would purchase, which is,
Here we go.
I would definitely there'd definitely be room to come and stay. I'd say to everyone, is a farm. That's what I want. I want a farm. Canna doesn't want a farm, so I'd love to have a farm. I don't want my kids growing up to be spoiled, entitled little pricks that they are in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. I can tell you that for free. They can find a potty calf and raise that up. That's what I want, a farm.
How then do you kind of reconcile this? And Canna, I suppose this is one for you, because this is a fairly big difference between kind of perhaps where you would like to live and the way that you perhaps might like to kind of raise your family. Is this something that you have discussed a lot? Is this kind of an ongoing kind of perhaps negotiation over how the future might play out?
No, we've discussed it, and we agreed at the time, and we still committed to that. To what we agreed on is, our family home at the moment is a priority, and I've agreed, yes, once the home is paid off and there's sufficient cash flow, we can explore that. If
Such
then
bullshit.
You know what? I'm seeing a future here for Canna in politics. No.
That is such bullshit. This is how the conversation's gone,
that's
honey.
what our focus is right now. If there is money,
Honey, I want a farm. Not happening. Okay, that's how the conversation's gone.
Tom can be out at the farm
Over my dead
at the
body.
house, with my Labrador, like every coloured Labrador under
She's
the
too
sun.
precious. Canna's too precious.
And I don't. That's not not my passion. If Tom wants that, though, I respect that. That's fine. But we have to prioritize the home first, and our financial well-being through investing. So if it can fit in, sure, why not?
So just so we're getting this on the record, you are not ruling the farm out here,
I'm not
Canna.
going to rule it out, but we have a list of priorities that we have to stick to. And
Yeah, I think I've sacrificed my farm by doing what we've done.
And we made that decision knowingly at the time. But obviously we had a lot of things that went wrong shortly after making that decision.
Yeah.
Which has probably then pushed the farm further down the priority list. Gotcha. All right, we still have plenty more to discuss. We'll take a very quick break and come back with more. Canna, we're talking about money in the relationship, money in your relationship more specifically. Tom, your partner, is our guest in the studio today. How about this one? The plan is obviously Canna's budgeting system. And as we talked about it earlier, it is quite a relatively strict kind of system. One listener wants to know, do you find following the plan hard? Or I'm guessing that based on what you said, whereas you don't even kind of know that it's happening in the background a lot of the time, you just kind of spend what money is available there to be spent. It's not that difficult to follow?
No, not difficult. No, sometimes I might exceed it a little bit, but yeah, no. And I'm glad it's there because I wouldn't, that within week to week, month to month, I would not take notice of what I'm spending, Yeah, so no, I don't find it difficult.
Okay, well, that actually probably leads us into the next one, which is from a listener again. Do you ever lose interest in it? Or do you ever think that life is too short to be putting so many financial restrictions on yourself at this point in time?
I don't pay attention to it as much as our friend over there, but I don't let it impact me. Like, there's been stress. Don't worry about that in a huge way. But, once the ducks are in order, we just get along with it. Well, I just get along with it. I think long term, once you have children, you're thinking about them as well. So, the sacrifices we're making now, we're not going to be the beneficiaries. I mean, we might be in some capacity, but ultimately, no. My spoilt stepson and his spoilt two sisters are going to be the beneficiaries of that, not us. And, that's the decisions we've made because of it. So I think long term, you've got to think like that.
Do you agree, Canna? Do you ever feel like life is too... Are there any moments for you where you just get frustrated with it all and being so financially responsible and having your spreadsheets and making sure that everything is where it needs to be? Do you ever just go, this is too much, I just want to go nuts?
Look, I don't, but I get incredibly frustrated. And there are moments where I feel a little bit, I guess, defeated. It feels like one step forward, 1 3/4 back. But, those moments pass and, I let myself feel that. It's a natural feeling. But then instead of dwelling on the problem, together we shift into solution mode and go, all right, let's acknowledge this is feeling annoying, irritating, there's an element of anger even there. But what can we do to move on from this? Don't stay stuck. And I think that's why we've managed to pull through so much over the last 18 months and that we're still fighting.
But money doesn't define us, though. Like, we don't, day to day, it doesn't get mentioned.
Yeah, and I think what you said before, Tom, about the fact that you're not really doing it for you as well, that you are looking ahead, that this is very much really one of the kind of overarching themes of this whole conversation has been the importance of having long-term goals. And those goals might be for your own financial independence, but it can also be for setting up your family for future success. And I think that's really important.
Definitely.
And we are running out of time, so I'm going to run through a few questions, more ones that we've received from listeners. How do you support and encourage each other to keep going when you are feeling a bit deflated or defeated? Do you I suppose, Canna, is it something that you can see when Tom is feeling a bit kind of as though it's all getting a bit much, and you two do spend a lot of time apart because of your work, Tom? How do you kind of maintain that support for each other when you are in different countries for a fair chunk of say the year?
Look, I would say, when there is that time where one is feeling particularly down, is go to the numbers and actually go, hang on, it is paying off all this hard work and the sacrifices. We are getting there. Yes, it is slow. Yes, it is frustrating, but we're actually still hanging in there. And, it's very easy to get caught up in the moment and go, you know what, this is too much. I can't keep going. But when you actually go, it's actually paying off. It's actually working and we're still here. That gives us the faith, just to hang in there that little bit longer, or you get re-injected with the inspiration. What would you say, Tom?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think then in those particular instances, and that's happened a couple of times with us, definitely, I think make a shorter term goal and say, well, look, if this doesn't happen in this amount of time, well, then let's revisit it then, and it might be the best thing to do. And the other is have non-negotiables, and I think that's the big important thing. So, for example, spending time with my kids at this age, I've worked, as everyone has, you work hard for a certain amount of time that you want to be able to either delegate or step back. And that was one thing for us where, because I'm spending time away now, when I'm here, if the business can't run with me delegating and being able to support Canna with her work and pick kids up and drop them off, then we'll make changes. And both of those things Canna and I have been non-negotiable on, and we've been able to make those things happen. But you can't compromise the health of yourself, your partner, or the quality of your relationship with your children for the sake of living in a big house, and we haven't ever been like that. So that's probably where we've been able to stick it out. But if one of those was compromised, 100%, see you later, walk away. Couldn't care.
Okay. One last one, a couple of last ones, very quick ones. Tom, what's the most generous thing that you have seen Canna do that has made you proud?
The work that she does behind the scenes, I mean, I've got a shitty little Instagram account that I thought, I was going well with, and then I saw the amount of work that she did, and I was like, oh my God, I stopped posting the next day. Like the amount of work that she does behind the scenes selflessly, and yeah, she's monetized it into a business, and so she should. But it comes from a place of absolute sincerity, and it's inspiring to watch.
And Canna's diagnosis as having ADHD, which Canna, you and I have talked about on the podcast before, one listener wants to know, how has it impacted your relationship, and has it actually improved your finances and I suppose the way money is managed within the household now that Canna, you have this awareness? And I suppose, Canna, I know what you would probably say because we have talked about it on the podcast. So I'll put this one to Tom instead.
That's an interesting question. I was surprised that she was only diagnosed with ADHD. I think the appointment might have run short. But it's helped Canna a lot in understanding why certain behavioural traits have occurred or certain things have happened. And it's definitely positively impacted our journey with that diagnosis in many respects, not just financially.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, as I shared in that episode, it's this diagnosis has actually removed the inner critic. It's toned down the volume of the inner critic. So I'm able to sort of communicate better. I'm able to have, I guess, better boundaries in place as well. I'm able to articulate myself in a more rational manner, which is, only going to help a relationship. But financially, I wouldn't say that the ADHD diagnosis has changed things, because I kind of had that area in my life, being a financial planner, sorted. But in the way that I work with my children and I work with Tom, communicate and act, definitely it's been huge, a huge weight off my shoulders. Like that diagnosis was a massive relief.
One last one. This is, and I'll hand over to a listener for this one, because it gets us back to the relationship part of this whole thing. Tom, what do you love most about Canna? I'm assuming this is money related. Like we could end up in a weird kind of place if you answer it on something non-money related, but you know what, just go for it and I'll just kind of block my ears if I need to.
Well, the obvious is our ability to laugh together. We've always had a good sense of humour. I think that's a big, big thing. But I think from the money aspect, and obviously she's incredibly beautiful and attractive and whatever else, but I love her passion about being responsible with money, and I also love the fact that there's never any what's the term that you say about financial abuse or emotionally,
Abuse.
there's never any a hint of that, like just not which, and I didn't even know it sort of happened until you get exposed to it with people that kind of spoken to and in other relationships. That's never a problem, like not even a hint of guilt over anything. So I think that's amazing.
Which is an interesting kind of thing, isn't it? Because one of the red flags for that happening in a relationship is where one person has a great deal of knowledge about money and one person has kind of a significantly less amount. But really what we're hearing and what you've kind of been describing to us on this podcast is the fact that Canna has done an awful lot to try and kind of spread that knowledge around and to share it with you, with others as well, and that really it is about education.
Oh, absolutely.
And including each other, including everyone.
Yep. Lots of communication. All right. Look, we've covered some ground, haven't we? It's been fascinating. I found it fascinating. Just a little peek into your relationship. It actually makes me sound a little bit creepy, doesn't it? A savings hack. Tom, I probably should have given you a heads up about this before we got to it, because at the end of every episode we ask our guests for a savings hack. I'm hoping that you've got one.
Oh, I've got one.
The black and gold muesli bars.
No, but I've got one, and Canna actually stole this from me. And this comes from my university days. It's cook once, eat twice. That's the best savings hack.
I'm sorry. This is absolutely the greatest savings hack. And do you know, Tom, that Canna has given me so much over this because I support this wholeheartedly.
Oh, thank you.
Where we will cook one meal and eat it over 2 nights.
Yes.
Kind of thing. And it is generally a meal that you cook it once because you know that the kids are going to eat it. And chances are they will eat it again the second night as well. And she just gave it to me for weeks and weeks and weeks after that. And she said so many times, geez, I'm glad I didn't come to your house on the second night and have your leftovers. Like, oh, Canna, come on. And now I find out that you like to do the same thing as well. Canna.
Well, hang on. I need to disclose something. When Tom does this, he will cook, for example, like dinner, and then he has it as takeaway for lunch the next day.
How is that different? How is that different?
Night after night.
No, it's not different. It's the same.
It's not. I'm afraid, Canna, that Tom and I are united on this one. It is 2-1. We have overruled you, and that is a suitable savings hack. It is possibly one of the best savings hacks I've ever heard. I'm sorry.
Way back in the day, my other savings hack, which shows that I've come a long way, was to drive my car, to get petrol when I was 18 in my little blue Daihatsu Charade, and it was still when we had 1 and 2 cents, and I would go to 2 cents above, so then I'd only get charged just say $18. But I would go to 2 cents and not go to 3 because then I'd have to pay the 5.
The power of rounding down. Yes.
And I thought I was killing it. I still remember doing that. Oh. And I'd literally do it every time I filled up, and I'd march in there so proud. Oh, far out.
Well, technically you could still do it now as long as you're not paying by card. As long as you're paying by cash.
That's true.
But,
yep.
I mean, 2 cents doesn't buy you as much now, does it, with petrol? Tom, it's been so good to have you in the studio, to go through all of these things. Thank you for being so honest about the full nature of money within your relationship, because hearing that really does make it, to hear that you do still have a few disagreements, the fact that the importance of communication, that constantly talking about money and being clear on what the goals are, and knowing then that if things do get tough, and they inevitably get tough for everyone, that if you've got each other's backs and you're still working towards those goals, then hopefully things will be okay. So thank you so much for coming in today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, honey.
You're welcome, honey.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me there. Goodness. Canna, how do we find you?
The best place to get in contact with me is on Instagram at SugarMamaTV.
And you can hear me every day with Sean Aylmer on Fear and Greed, Australia's best business podcast. Thank you very much for listening to How Do They Afford That? Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and the very best thing you can do to help us out is to tell somebody else, or Better yet, here's an idea. Send them this episode for them to have a listen. Thanks for your company. Join us again next week.